Marvel Spider-Man 2. Honestly, it looks a lot better than I was expecting. Not to say I was expecting it to look bad. I was expecting it to be good, and I just wasn't expecting it to be this good. But alas, Insomniac pulled through. They surprised us even more than they did back in 2018 and 2020, and they did so in a way that actually made me think of some ways that I like for them to improve some more. So here I am making this video. Now, calm down, chill out. Before you write that comment, I'm not complaining, I'm not whining, I'm not nitpicking, I'm not being ungrateful, I'm not asking for too much, I just thought it'd be fun to list some things that I like to see in the game. I doubt they're gonna be in Marvel Spider-Man 2 considering how close we are, but you never know. There's a lot of things that are still coming out that we didn't see before. And I'm sure once the game launches, there's gonna be even more surprises that weren't revealed at all. But all that aside, let's get into some things that I'd like to see in the Marvel Spider-Man series. Initially, when this video popped into my head like 4 months ago, I was gonna do a super in-depth video talking about world mechanics and stuff, but as far as things like the world and combat, Insomniac pretty much nailed everything that I would have wanted to add, so I don't really have anything to talk about there. So this video is going to focus mostly on traversal and whatever random tidbits pop into my mind. It's 2:51 a.m. and I don't have a script. I'm running on 3 hours of sleep and ice cream, and you can probably tell, so let's get into this. Starting off with traversal, my second favorite part of Spider-Man games. This is definitely one of, if not the most critiqued thing I see when it comes to Insomniac Spider-Man, and I understand why. While I do believe Insomniac has crafted the best Spider-Man swinging system we've ever seen in a video game, one thing you often see is people saying that it feels very limited in comparison to the older games, and I'm inclined to agree. Insomniac obviously has their own vision and their own identity that they want for their Spider-Man, so my answer to this isn't going to be simply make it more like Spider-Man 2 or Web of Shadows or whatever. I think the problem that often gets ran into when discussing ways Insomniac could improve their swinging is all of the suggestions people have, Insomniac would have to rebuild their swinging system from the ground up for, and I don't think they should do that. I think it's better to offer ways that tie into the way their swinging already works. So for my first suggestion, you often see people say that you should be able to touch the ground in Insomniac Spider-Man while swinging. Again, they'd have to essentially rebuild their swinging from the ground up for this. So, rather than essentially rebuilding their swinging and making it more physics-based, how about they implement a system where, much like the loop-de-loop mechanic that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is confirmed to have, if you swing at a certain low point, it'll trigger a range of different animations that include Spider-Man touching the ground. For example, you swing a little too late or you're a little too close to the street. Rather than the magical force field Insomniac has implanted into the street of New York in their games, how about it simply triggers an animation where Peter is running along the ground or dragging his hand along the ground, as we see in that one cutscene where he gets the advanced suit. I think this is a perfect middle ground for people that want the swing to stay accessible and not have such a high skill for, like we see in Spider-Man 2 and Web of Shadows, and the people that want the swinging to be more like Spider-Man 2 and Web of Shadows. You don't have to rebuild the physics system, and you also get to give the people that keep saying that we should be able to touch the ground what they want. I see this as an absolute win. And since people would definitely still complain about this, how about we take it a step further, and rather than it being an animation, it being something that you yourself can trigger with one of the unused buttons while swinging. Perhaps while you're swinging, you can say hold circle or something and have Spider-Man reach towards the ground. I'm not sure if circle is used while swinging. I don't know. I don't think it is, but I think it being an animation works perfectly fine and would be better in some sense. It offers much more room to be flashy and drives home the entire point of Insomniac swinging and making the player feel cool while swinging. So yeah, that's number one out of the way. I guess it's number one. I'm not numbering these. I'm just gonna shoot. And this next thing is less something I want them to add and more something I want them to take away, or stop doing rather. So in Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales and probably Marvel Spider-Man 2, if you've ever tried to start a swing like without any momentum at all, you'll notice that the game just kind of forces you into having momentum. It's like there's just this ever-present force that's constantly pushing you forward on your swing. I'm not sure if this is a matter of them having to rework their swinging system, because it is possible to have zero momentum while you're on a web. If you ever played the older Spider-Man games, if you hold onto a web and like just don't let go, eventually Spider-Man will flip upside down and hang upside down on the web. You can actually do that in Spider-Man PS4. A lot of people don't know you can though, because they made it so hard to stay still on a web. I don't think it would impact their swinging physics system that much if they just remove like Madam Web forcing me to swing forward or something. I think a simple solution would be do it while I'm pushing forward on the stick and don't do it while I'm not. It's just a matter of them having the start of the swing being the existing state they already have of just hanging onto the web. Yeah, okay, cool. Next thing. Now, this next thing. People often talk about how automated Spider-Man PS4 swinging is, but surprisingly, I never see them talk about this reason of why it feels automated. And that reason is that there's one button that's responsible for literally all forms of traversal, aside from the point launch, and even then, the button is there's just another button added onto it. That button I'm talking about is, of course, R2. That single button is responsible for the web swinging, wall running, and parkouring over any and all obstacles that you may find yourself encountered with. Like, forget being able to touch the ground or physics-based swinging. I feel like this little fact is at least 98% of the reason why so many people think that swinging feels so automated in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. Like, if you can, I'd like for you to load into Spider-Man PS4 or Spider-Man Miles Morales and start at the end of the map. Do nothing but jump once and then hold forward and hold R2. You'll come to realize that without letting go of any of those, you can literally just make it across the map without doing anything. Like, trying to do this in any of the older Spider-Man games, it ends at the fact that you have to let go of your web. And I don't want to keep comparing Insomniac Spider-Man to older games because it's not trying to be those games. It has its own identity. If they wanted to, they could just make their swinging like Web of Shadows, but they don't want to because they're not Web of Shadows. Their game isn't Web of Shadows. But even aside from that, I think having one button handle 3 fairly different forms of movement in the same way of just simply holding it no less is kind of wild. I think wall running and parkour should at least have their own shared bind separate from swinging. Though with all the new mechanics Spider-Man 2 is bringing and how many buttons are being taken up, I'm not sure how they'd even go about it now. I'd say triangle, but that's for web wings now apparently. Maybe if you hold it, the wings don't come out, and if you run into a wall, you could just start wall running, or while you're on the ground, you could just parkour over stuff while you're holding it. Kind of like how while you're swinging, square becomes the air trick button. I think that could work, perhaps. Also, let us run down and slide down buildings. I don't know why that's not a thing. I can understand sliding, but why can't we not run down buildings? Why? I guess maybe I'm just the only one that cares about this because we don't even know if it's possible in Marvel Spider-Man 2 because apparently nobody thought to try it. Nobody that got their hands on the game decided to try to run down buildings apparently. Not that I've seen anyways. Maybe that's because it's not possible and someone did try it, but the only thing about it at all that I've seen is someone saying that they didn't try it. But yeah, that's it for traversal. As I said earlier, Insomniac pretty much did everything else I would have wanted them to do, so any ideas I have in this next part coming up are like not very in-depth and pretty small, so I don't think I'm even gonna organize them. I'm just gonna talk as I go. So first up, I want to be able to switch between the red and black suit at will. This is a very commonly requested feature, and I'm kind of just shouting into the clouds with this one because it's pretty much confirmed that we're not going to see it. According to Caboose, one of the people that got to play the game, the symbiote suit is effectively just a suit slot, and you can use the symbiote abilities with any other suit. So if you're using the advanced suit, when you try to use your symbiote abilities, you're just going to be able to use them, which is kind of weird. The tendrils, I assume, are just going to be coming out of the advanced suit. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about it being handled like that in its entirety, because at that point it kind of makes the symbiote suit feel like it just doesn't matter. It's like, sure, it's there, but like you don't need it. Like you can just use the symbiote abilities. Like you have the symbiote, but like the symbiote suit is kind of just cosmetic. I'm sure there's gonna be points in the story where whatever suit you're using is gonna be overridden by the symbiote suit for narrative purposes, but aside from that, yeah, the symbiote suit is basically just an alternate costume that you can use. Not gonna lie, it's pretty disappointing, but I'll live. Like, it's not the end of the world. But for a video about things I want and, well, things I would have wanted to see, since I doubt the symbiote itself is gonna make another appearance after this game. But for that, yeah, I would have preferred that they have it be sort of like Web of Shadows, where we press a button and switch. If not exactly that, something similar. Keeping on the topic of the symbiote, I want to see tendril combat. Not like what we've already seen where certain moves involve tendrils, kind of like how it works in Spider-Man Web of Shadows. I want to see something similar to Shattered Dimensions Ultimate Spider-Man gameplay, like full-on AoE attacks binded to the normal attack button. The symbiote does have a rage mode in this game, where we do see a lot more tendril combat, but for the most part, it seems like they're usually relegated to like grabs and such. Like, there are a few times where you can see him use them to like just straight hit someone, but it seems like for the most part they're used way more for like, say, jumping over an enemy and grabbing them by the head and slamming them into the floor. So I think it'd be really cool if at like some point in the story we have a heightened version of the rage mode where Peter's nearly lost it and he's just using like full-on tendrils, and it's at a point where like he's like either very upset or the symbiote's almost taken over. I think it should be at a point where he's like incredibly upset. Perhaps something's happened to either Harry or Miles or someone else, and he's just letting out all that frustration on anyone who finds themselves in front of him, unfortunately. Any bad guys, anyways. Spider-Man should never become like fucking like completely murderous, like bloodthirsty with the symbiote. It shouldn't affect him like that. I mean, unless it's Ultimate Spider-Man, he's a dick without the symbiote. This next thing is less something that I want to see and more of a concern, and that's the fact that you can apparently spot, like, if you're playing as Miles, you can see Peter out in the city, or if you're playing as Peter, you can see Miles out in the city already doing something. And I have a few concerns about this. Well, one concern with like a few points, but you know, I hope this isn't something that becomes very repetitive. New York is very big and people are people. I think there should be times where you can go like several hours while playing the game without like running across like Miles or Peter doing something, because not at that point it just feels like very immersion breaking. And from how many people that got to play the game mentioned it, it does seem like it's something that happens pretty often. So I hope that's not the case. I hope it just happens less. Yeah. Keeping on the topic of world events and the city events in Ultimate Spider-Man, every so often when you see a crime or something occur, sometimes that crime is actually being carried out by like a lower tier street level villain such as Shocker or Boomerang. And I think that'd be really cool to see in Insomniac Spider-Man. I think it's definitely something that would add to like the overall depth of the world. And if there's one thing from here that I think has the best chance of appearing, I think it's this. This next one, it's not really a gameplay thing. I guess you could say it's a suit I want, but it's not anything in particular. But I want some suits that just like already have web wings, like just part of the design, just part of the model. Like say a suit based on Peter Parker's first appearance, the Amazing Fantasy 15 suit. It could have web wings already on there, and they could be part of the like actual web wing function. I think that'd be cool. On the topic of web wings, since varied web wings are like confirmed, like different suits have their own web wings. With the Arachnite suit, that web cape, well, not web cape, that cape, it better function as his web wings. We better be able to glide like we're Batman. If we don't, I might actually cry. But I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to. Like, I don't even know how they'd go about like doing that without like, are his web wings just going to be under the cape? Like he just has web wings under his armpits, under the cape? That doesn't make sense. Let us glide with the cape. I also think they should give Spider-Man Noir his fedora and trench coat back, and we should glide with the trench coat. That'd be cool also. Since I already kind of mentioned suits, to end this off, I'm just gonna rapid fire some suits I want. A more traditional looking comic symbiote suit. Not like a comic symbiote suit like the vintage suit, but like just a more traditional but still realistic alternative to the bulletproof suit they decided to put him in. Ben Reilly's sensational suit. If that other ugly, fugly looking suit that had the mouth made it in, then there's no way Ben Reilly's sensational suit isn't in here. Ben Reilly's Beyond suit. Kinda shooting for the stars here, but an Ultimate Spider-Man symbiote suit. You know how it had like the purple tint and the logo's kinda different and the eyes are bigger? Yeah, I want that. Bonus points if it's based on Miles' model, but I doubt they do that. Not really a new suit, but I don't want that many of the suits from the previous games to come back, because 65 suits, Miles and Peter's suits from their games respectively, that's like only 5 new suits that could be added, so I doubt all of them are coming back, but I hope not that many are coming back. Lastly, I want to see a more specific comic book suit. Unlike the vintage suit that's essentially just their classic suit with a cell shaded filter slapped onto it, I want to see something that more directly pays homage to a specific artist's style. If I had to choose, I'd say Todd McFarlane or Mark Bagley, but realistically they'd do someone like Ditko or maybe Romita Sr. since he died this year. Rest in peace. But with all that out of the way, that's everything I'd want to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2 or any Marvel Spider-Man game going forward. Since way too many of you like to look at anything people say about this game that isn't objectively positive and tell them that they're whining or nitpicking, I'd like to clarify right now, none of this is criticism. I wouldn't even say it's constructive criticism. These are just things I'd like to see. If they happen, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be very happy and I'd be very excited. If they don't happen, I'll live. The game's already great. They've already done way above what any other developer tackling this series has done, and I thank them for that. But I think if you like something, you should be able to also look at it and think about ways that you'd like to see it improve. But if you made it this far, thanks, and tell me down below what you'd like to see. I love talking about this little stuff that no one outside of this community really cares about. Also, I'm not a Spider-Man channel. You can subscribe if you want, if that's what you want to see. I'll definitely talk about Spider-Man more, but like, I'm not probably Spider-Man V2. I am not definitely Spider-Man. I do plan on exploring a wider range of content for all 7 of you, 6 of you being my alts, but I'm mostly talking about this stuff because if I don't do something with the hype, I'm gonna break something. But that being said, again, thanks for watching, thanks for getting this far, and I'll catch all you guys in the next video, all 1 of you, and yeah, see ya.